Hey guys, it's Francois here again, bringing you another FPS Creator original, created by myself, but never actually released. And as you can see from the title, and from what you're seeing right here, the game was called UT, which stands for Ultraterrestrial. But I actually created another game that was called Ultraterrestrial, so I think this one was just put as UT. And I don't know if this was the spin-off or the other one was the spin-off, but I separated it just to kind of keep them separate, okay? And another fun fact, Team Lift, that's not something that I actually went under, and if it was just like as a joke. Me and Austin, this guy I used to work with, we worked in a retail setting, and if you had to lift anything that was awkward or over 50 pounds, you needed a team lift. And that's where we got the name from, but I don't think it was anything serious, maybe something just like as a placeholder. And so around that time, I just used it because I was trying to emulate the whole PT feel, even down to the whole screenshot you see here. It was actually taken in my parents' backyard, and I dressed it up in Photoshop to make it look more like the actual PT little snapshot thumbnail picture in the PlayStation Store. But yeah, fun times, fun times. Long time ago now. Over a decade, it feels like, or close to a decade. Let's go ahead and get started. And so this is not like anything official. This is just the FPS Creator default image you could use. Since this was never supposed to see the light of day, I didn't want to look at the original because it's so ugly and bland. So we start out, and obviously, we're put in a direction where we're supposed to go. Okay? So you may, when you start out playing, go up and try to open the door, but you can't. Okay? So now we're going to redirect our attention, and then we can see we're in like a basement or underground in somewhere. And you got all these like the paint cans, toolboxes, construction tools, and a lot of these models, by the way, were from Model Pack 16 from FPS Creator. So if we look around for a little bit, we might see something here. And I wish I had like a little icon to tell you can interact with it, but that may have came at a later date, just not now. If you interact with this photo, it says, "I heard your voice through a photograph," which, fun fact, that's actually from a Red Hot Chili Peppers song. So I guess at the time I was jamming out to it, or it was in my playlist, but I don't really listen to them much now. It's just something for the time period to kind of nod at that, I guess. So now the door opens, and if I remember, in PT, it you obviously played as the abusive father, right? And there was something to do with that, and there was some photographs that kind of gave you the story. So I think there were some shared aspects of that, but I don't remember the exact story. I just know that it had something to do with family members and you not necessarily being a good guy. So it followed close to the same plot, but just something different, although we'll get to that in a second. So another fun fact too, this house was actually modeled after my dentist's house, who I was doing some work for at the time. Kind of doing some caulking inside of his house. So before they actually put the real insulation in, I caulked all the seams all across the house, so it would be the most insulated as humanly possible. Okay, and so I do remember when I was walking around his basement, I was like, this basement looks pretty cool. I could probably use this whole layout for myself. And this is just a random room. The things you see here and the way it's laid out and jumped up is not indicative of his actual house or what it was at the time. It was just kind of something to kind of pad the room out. But I do think I do know there was a room, which you walk through here, there was a room here. It was in his actual house, and I think there might have been something there. But this little crevice right here, I think, was something I added. And it was a little more open. So, and as you can see right here, the rooms behind us are just a little bit irrelevant. But right here you can see the trash in the bin. So you can see this place has not been upkept. And these people are living pretty trashy, okay? So at this point, we're starting to get into the lore. And right here, these lights kind of guide you. When you see this, you know you can kind of go this direction. The door's a little more lighter than everything else. This is just something here to guide the player, along with the window, because the window wasn't in the actual house. It's just something I added to kind of, you know, balance things out, because I didn't want a light right there. So you come in here, and this is like a den, although in the actual house it wasn't like that. It was more just like a place to store tools and stuff on the wall. You got your little sofa here from a World War II model pack made by BSP. I do know that. The little molded out pictures were created by me or retextured by me. And so anyway, getting into the lore, you can see there's like wine bottles, cigarettes, beer bottles, solo cups. They're not red, but they're plastic cups. And you can see drug paraphernalia here. And by the way, that's my grandmother. That's my maternal grandmother. I actually was going to use another picture of a woman from an old-timey era, maybe 50s or something like that. But I want to get a picture of my grandmother just because like it's something that people haven't used and have been in other horror games, and it kind of fit the whole scene. So anyways, so these doors here, like French doors and all that, I know in the house they would swing open, and it would actually be a little more open, but just to kind of I guess have more like light reflecting off the walls and stuff, I closed it off here and kind of redirect your path. So you kind of want to come up here and check things out. Nothing's really interactable, but eventually you'll find your way through here, and you'll see the radio, or you'll hear the radio and know to go towards it. Now, I can't exactly hear what's going on, but there was a radio broadcast where I'm the DJ, kind of explaining how things are going. And at this time, the whole story was based upon the Hal Bob comet and the Heaven's Gate incident, okay? So, to get you up to speed, basically what happened was these Heaven Gate people, they were a cult, or people called them a cult. And they believed that when the Hal Bob comet came, the spaceship was coming up behind it, and when it came and passed across, if they took their own lives by whatever means, they would be transported into the ship and be taken off of Earth, okay? So the whole story is this is happening around that time, okay? But this is not the exact house. This is just something kind of, it's related to aliens, but not the extraterrestrial kind, although that's what makes the mention. The Ultraterrestrials are aliens that are already here, okay? And what's playing on the radio right now actually is Austin, who I mentioned earlier and I worked with. He played guitar and he wrote his own songs, and this was one of them. It was Falling Through Glass, and I think this, and there was some other songs that kind of played or were supposed to play to emulate a radio station. But I think I just kept with this one because you weren't meant to be like around here for too long. Eventually, you know, you get a good look around and see all the furniture and kind of dating this place to be pretty old, right? And you even got like the leaking pipes and all that. You would go through here and see like there's like a washroom. So you got your sinks and your washer and your dryer, and there's just, you know, recreational stuff like a dartboard and trash bins, just kind of like laying it out to give you the fact that this is a lived-in area, and by a lot of people too, because I guess this was supposed to be like another cult kind of going on. This is like their house, and I know that if you went upstairs, there was like a den, not like a den, but like a foyer, a living room, and a kitchen off to the right, and you go upstairs, and there's other areas. But I know I pretty much stopped right here, and everything I took I kind of translated into something else. But this is just something, I guess, a product of its time to kind of like, I don't know, you know, create like an ambiance, right? Not necessarily good level design, I mean environment design, I guess. Because you do nothing but really like walk through and like hear the radio and all that. But this was just something, you know, at the time I created for whatever reason to sort of be like spooky and sort of play with that. I do know shortly after I created this, I actually moved into the Unreal Engine. So this stuff you see here kind of translates on, and I do got more videos on that stuff too, because what this turned into, I actually have a video of, and it's a lot more detailed, and it feels a lot more like PT than this. And so, like I said, this is a product of its time. One of the last things I actually made in FPS Creator. So, obviously, I don't guess it was ever meant to be completed. But that's just a little history lesson on UT. And I really just wanted to catalog all this stuff and to kind of get in my mind and kind of tell you the things that have been going on and what's led me from where I was to where I am now. And this is just one of those steps, right? And of course there's other games I made before this, and they'll be on the channel as well. But it's just something I like to look back on, and I want to make sure it's cataloged on the internet for people to see down the road, and maybe be able to see for myself and kind of get an idea of where I was at the time and what I was thinking. And I guess really that's that. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Stick around, subscribe, like, share, do all that. And there'll be more videos coming from me in the future. Just keep your eyes open and your head on a swivel. Alright, see you guys.